Hello there YouTube, it's your boy B3 back with another kicking graphic novel review. Today we're doing some more Marvel. I've been wanting to do more Marvel. I barely touch it, I feel like, and I really prefer Marvel's more street level characters. So today we are doing Moon Knight Volume 3, Halfway to Sanity, from the 2021 to 2023 Moon Knight run. This is the run that takes place after Moon Knight kicks the Avengers' ass. A book that I haven't reviewed, but I have reviewed volumes 1 and 2 of this Moon Knight run. If you want to check those out, you are more than welcome. But for now, I'm going to read the back of the book. The scars of Zodiac's attack linger, but that doesn't stop Moon Knight from picking a new fight. Mark Spector's war with the vampires of the Structure, which is a vampire pyramid scheme. That's true. Must be fought on two fronts, one in the midnight streets and the other within his own mind. Mark needs information, and he must rely on some old allies to get it. And while secrets are fettered out from the steamiest gutters to the highest seats of power, Moon Knight must reveal a hidden truth to those closest to him. Meanwhile, Hunter's Moon stalks the rooftops on his own, intent on his own definition of justice. What shocking revelations will Mark Spector learn about the Fists of Khonshu? And Moon Knight once again encounters Jack Russell, the werewolf by night. Rated T14 from Marvel Comics, collecting Moon Knight 2021 number 13 through 18 and Moon Knight Annual 2022 number 1 by Jed MacKay, Federico Sabatini, Alessandro Cappuccio, and Rachel Rosenberg. I really hope I pronounced everyone's names right, but I wouldn't put money on it. Anyway, this one's pretty cool. The cover is actually, as you can see here, a recreation of Moon Knight's first appearance in Werewolf by Night. I have the Werewolf by Night complete collections. One day I'll get to it. It's actually very interesting Marvel history. It's a very interesting, good book. But Moon Knight, this almost is supposed to be kind of like a final confrontation with this being, this Moon Knight Werewolf by Night rivalry kind of coming to an end in a way, but also probably not, because it's corporate comics and nothing ever ends unless it's bad. So, the head of the Structure, the vampire pyramid scheme, and so like he creates a vampire, and then that vampire creates a bunch of vampires, and then those vampires go on to create vampires. It makes a lot of sense, and since vampires control their thralls, control their bloodline, he controls every vampire, but the other vampires feel powerful because they control the vampires under them. So he's actually has, it's incredibly clever. Like, it's funny, but it makes a lot of sense. So he hires Taskmaster as a consultant and asks Taskmaster about Moon Knight. And Taskmaster says, Moon Knight is the one guy that I will not go after. I will not. That man is batshit insane, and I will not fight him for anybody. And we do see Moon Knight doing some pretty insane things. He has some vampires tied up, and they're on the roof of a building, but the sun is coming up, so the shadow that's protecting them is slowly moving away. So every 3 minutes, one of the vampires catches fire until one of them talks and gives up their masters. The master, of course, being the tutor, who is the head of the Structure. It's pretty insane. And the vampires don't squeal, much to their credit. And when Moon Knight realizes the last one's not going to squeal, he kicks him into the sun. Taskmaster describes Moon Knight as a bullet, and when the tutor offers to pay Taskmaster to kill him, he's like, no, hell no, that's not fucking happening. Oh well. We also see Moon Knight continuing therapy. And his therapy was supposed to be more to keep him from kicking the Avengers' ass again, and they never talked about really his dissociative identity disorder, but now they're going to start talking about that. He's going to start working on it, and he feels a lot of guilt for what happened to Soldier. They keep talking about what happened to Soldier, and the way they do that, you know he's not dead because they aren't saying the word dead. They aren't showing his corpse. But in a way, he is dead, because now he's a vampire. And at first, when they revealed that, I was like, what the heck? Are you telling me that Reese turned him to save him? That doesn't really seem like something Reese would do. And it's not. What actually happened, I think, is pretty interesting, very clever, cool writing. When the bullet passed through Reese and hit Soldier, it carried her vampire blood into him. So he accidentally became a vampire. And while Reese doesn't like being a vampire, there are aspects of vampirism that Soldier actually really likes. He seems to have a pretty decent handle on it. But to Soldier, his new vampire abilities are kind of just a help to him. Like they're a way for him to help the Midnight Mission. To Reese, she's like, I'd rather be human. But for Soldier, he's like, hey, this works for me. I can live with this. Or unlive with this, I suppose. But you see Moon Knight just chopping through vampires with silver swords. Taskmaster comes to warn Moon Knight. That's how afraid of Moon Knight Taskmaster is. He's like, hey, yeah, I'm telling you this so that you know it doesn't have anything to do with me. Please don't come hurt me. I'm scared shitless of you. He technically says, quote, mainly because I'm scared as hell of you. But, hey, let's call it a courtesy from one professional to another, end quote. Pretty insane. But Taskmaster also sees almost a kinship of Moon Knight in a way, because Moon Knight used to be a mercenary, and he still does pretty horrible stuff, and they have the same hood. They have the same hood. So, the tutor hires two assassins, superhuman assassins, from outside of the country, because those are the only people willing to even consider going against Moon Knight. The Nemean and Grand Mal. Grand Mal, she touches you with her gauntlets. It can cause seizures. And then Nemean, he's Greek. He's kind of like the Nemean lion. He's basically just another super... He basically has Luke Cage's powers, pretty much. Like, he's invulnerable, and he's got enhanced strength, but it's not like Superman level super strength, you know? I actually quite like both their designs. They look really cool. Anyway, Moon Knight decides that eventually he is going to have to tell Reese about his dissociative identity disorder. So he talks with his other identities within himself. He talks to Steven and Jack, I think. He talks to them all. And the two other personalities... Jake, sorry, I said Jack, didn't I? Jake. The other two personalities kind of have their lives together. Like, Jake is a little scummy, but he is a good guy. He does a lot of good. He knows who he is. And then Steven, incredibly successful, great at what he does. Mark is the one that's really screwed up, to be honest. And these personalities have almost been elevated to having their own souls, almost. That's not, like, confirmed, but at least not in these Moon Knight comics. But they're telling Mark, they're like, hey, like, we said we'd sit by while you did this Midnight Mission thing, but you actually really need us. Like, this book, every single issue is a psychological deep dive into Moon Knight, and every single one is gold. This Moon Knight run is absolutely incredible. Literally everybody should be reading it. It's insanely good. Insanely good. The psychology of not only Moon Knight, but all his orbital characters are on full display in this book. And they do incredible. Incredible. It's incredible work. But Mark Spector does kind of get his ass beat by these two assassins, because they show up while he's having his little inner meeting in himself. But he also underestimates them. He doesn't know anything about them, because they're not from these parts. He doesn't know as much. So Hunter's Moon and Tigra do have to show up to save him. Also, Hasbro. Hunter's Moon figure win. I need a Hunter's Moon Marvel Legend, please, and thank you. Thank you very much. Anyhow, Mark lets his other personalities help him. You got Jake, and Jake can kind of run the streets. He's a taxi driver. He can talk to people on the streets, get a lot of information, and then information that those people can't give, Steven can get, because he has big old rich boy connections. It really works out. To be completely honest, this associative identity disorder in media, but also especially in comics, is a little dicey sometimes. It's often not portrayed well or in an interesting way. This book, I think, has done a great job with it. Really, I think it has. Especially since the book started kind of ignoring it, which I think was helpful to new readers kind of come on to Moon Knight. But it kind of does bring you back into it as it continues, which is very interesting. But we see Moon Knight telling his friends, he tells Reese, and everyone takes it really well. He was afraid people wouldn't, but pretty much everyone took it well. Incredibly so. Especially Hunter's Moon. He was ecstatic. Absolutely ecstatic. He called it a holy thing. He said, quote, "The facets of your mind reflect the aspects of Khonshu. Khonshu has always had many faces, as have his fists through the gift of the chorus. This is no different," end quote. Also, the chorus is having the memories and fighting experience and know-how of all the previous fists. Mark doesn't have that. Hunter's Moon has it, but Mark doesn't. Mark's actually more dangerous without it, oddly enough. Anyhow, Mark's old flame, Marlene, shows up. She left the country because they weren't safe being around him. Their daughter has been abducted by werewolves, specifically the werewolf by night, who is now king of the werewolves. He kicked some ass. He's basically the werewolf equivalent of Marvel's Dracula, which is awesome. Good for him. He survives his experience with the Darkhold, came out with his quote-unquote sanity. He doesn't super want to harm Moon Knight's daughter, but there is a prophecy that his people will be free from the moon god's enslavement, because the moon controls werewolves. It dictates what they go through. Right now, Khonshu is weak, and when someone is made a fist, they're not supposed to be able to sire any offspring. So Hunter's Moon thinks this prophecy is BS. He doesn't know that Mark has a kid. But perhaps Mark not having things like the chorus means that he isn't, sterile. So he and Hunter's Moon go in, they fight the werewolves, and you see, they're supposed to kill Moon Knight and turn his daughter into a werewolf so that she can lead them to freedom. And Khonshu, Khonshu, he's a big asshole. Khonshu tells Hunter's Moon to kill Mark's daughter. He tells him to put a sword right through her, because if she's dead, the prophecy cannot be fulfilled. Hunter's Moon has been shown a new way of sorts. a while back, he might have done this. There was a time when he was going to kill a bunch of vampires that hadn't done anything bad yet, including Reese. And he was made to understand that they hadn't done anything bad yet. Just being vampires isn't enough reason to eliminate them. So, Khonshu giving the order, he might have considered obeying it. The old Hunter's Moon might have. I still don't think he would have done it, because for Hunter's Moon to disobey Khonshu, it's got to be insane. It's got to be really immoral. So Hunter's Moon shows up with her, sword to her throat. She doesn't even seem scared. She's kind of a badass. And he's like, listen up. If you kill Moon Knight, I'll kill his daughter. All right? If you leave Moon Knight alive, I will leave his daughter alive. But for this prophecy to work, Moon Knight has to be dead and his daughter has to be alive. And yeah, Khonshu is pissed at Hunter's Moon. But Hunter's Moon is like, she was innocent. I couldn't just kill her if I had another choice. I just couldn't. But Mark gets a little family time at the end, which is nice. But Marlene has to take the family and move away. We also see the Midnight Mission go to talk with a vampire, a very sapphic vampire. She has an energy very similar to, I don't know if you've read Batman Eternal, but when Catwoman becomes a crime boss in Batman Eternal, she has not only very similar energy to that, but a very similar outfit. It's like if Catwoman dressed in white instead of black. She has the same open-fronted shirt and everything. It's very interesting. Very interesting. But Moon Knight is striking a deal with her to kind of get information on the vampire pyramid scheme. Hunter's Moon is fighting the assassins that attacked Moon Knight. And I talked about in the last volume how the Midnight Mission is basically a street gang. They have territory, they have the colors that they wear, and now he's negotiating with a vampire gang, kind of like two gangs would negotiate in organized crime. Yeah, they don't talk about it till later, character to character, but the whole time I was reading this book, even in volume 1, I was like, this is pretty much a gang. And Soldier puts that into words later, and it was really helpful to me. But you can already feel it. And you know what Hunter's Moon is feeling? His neck snap. The assassins kill him. But many of you may know that when a fist of Khonshu dies, Khonshu brings him back to life. It's not the biggest of deals, you know? Except it is. One thing we didn't really know is that when a fist of Khonshu comes back to life, they always come back a little less. And it's kind of like the Lazarus pits, to be completely honest. Now, in some continuities, every time you use a Lazarus pit, it not only works a little less on you, but you also come back a little less sane. Moon Knights come back a little less human. Or I guess Fists of Khonshu come back a little less human. They're not all called Moon Knight. But, when they come back, they get more aggressive, angrier, and eventually they're just like feral animals. And at that point, Khonshu stops bringing them back to life and lets them rest. Lets their spirits rest. And so Hunter's Moon didn't super want to die. He doesn't like the idea of coming back and being less. But Hunter's Moon has been told now by Khonshu that not everything is going to be working out in their favor from now on as far as resurrection goes. But also Moon Knight is able to defeat the assassins with the resurrected Hunter's Moon. They go to a meeting of the vampire pyramid scheme, where he's trying to impress all these other vampire organizations, and he seems to kind of be doing it until Moon Knight shows up and throws his assassins in through the skylight. He and Tiger show up, in their tightest fits, both literally and figuratively. Woof. But they do this really cool thing because they set off the sprinklers, and Moon Knight is like, you know, I'm a priest, right? I consecrate this water, and then it all becomes holy water and starts burning the vampires in the room. There's just so many cool, clever moments like that in this Moon Knight run. It's an incredible, incredible run in every way. Really, it is. But we also eventually see the Myrmidon, which is a superhuman prison, and we see Dr. Robert Plesko, the psychotherapist, talking to Zodiac. And Plesko is a Moon Knight character. He worked with Moon Knight in the past. And Zodiac kind of knows this and whatnot, but we'll get to see more of their back and forth in the next volume. Yes, in the back of the book, we see a cool timeline of Moon Knight and Werewolf by Night, which shows all the times they've met and crossed over and everything, which can be a helpful guide. I feel like it maybe should have been in the front of the book, but oh well. We also get some kick-ass variant covers. Always got to have that variant cover gallery in the back and whatnot. But this is an incredible book, and the art is incredible too. It's got so much color, but it's also so dark. It's a perfect fit for the tone of this book. I love how everyone is drawn. They're always on model. A lot of comic artists aren't always on model. But I mean, the characters look consistent panel to panel, page to page, and Moon Knight just looks like he's glowing. He's drawn in such a beautiful, vibrant way. He really does look like he shines right off the page. It's incredible art. I feel like comic reviews don't talk about art enough, and I know that I'm tagging it on to the end. But damn, the art is perfect for the run. Just incredible. It's an incredible book. Moon Knight Volume 3, Halfway to Sanity, is amazing. If you like Moon Knight, street level vigilantes, Marvel in general, this is great. And if you're sitting here like, oh, I didn't really like the Moon Knight show. Fuck the Moon Knight show. I didn't like it either. I quit after episode 3. The damn show gave me a headache. But this Moon Knight run is incredible. And the run after it is incredible. It's kind of broken up into 3 runs. They're on the 3rd run right now. At the time of recording, the trade isn't out, but it will be by the time this is posted and live. So that'll be fun. But that is it. Thank you all very much for your support. Remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. And check out all the cool links in the description below, Facebook, Twitter, etc. And I'll see you all next time. Bye for now.